Hi, I'm Tim Altman from 13th Beach Health Services. Today I'm going to talk about one of the modalities I use called Mickel Therapy, which is not very well known, but it is a very exciting modality, one that has dramatically changed how I work, how I approach health and living, and certainly gets the best, or certainly the most potent results I've ever seen for chronic illness. Things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, anxiety and depression, other chronic illnesses like autoimmune, and also for performance. It's absolutely fantastic for performance and learning how to live optimally. And Mickel therapy is basically, it's not the only approach that has this, or the only technique that has this approach. The reason I use the Mickel technique is because it has a fantastic set of working tools that helps you create health and wellness, or helps you create performance. So this approach basically looks at the role of our hypothalamus with our health. Now, our hypothalamus is a gland in our brain stem that's a link between our body and our mind essentially, and its role is to maintain homeostasis, or to keep your body purring along. So it regulates the functions of all of our automatic functions. So that's everything that works, whether you're aware of it or not. Your circulation, so your heart, your breathing, your digestive system, your liver and kidneys and metabolism, your lymphatic system, your urinary system. It regulates every automatic function. It regulates your endocrine function, so all of your hormones. It regulates your immune system. And it regulates a lot of brain functions like some cognitive function, neurotransmitter levels, sleep cycles, ability to handle change in temperature, etc. So you can see that it's like the general, and its job is to maintain health. Now, for a number of reasons which Mickel therapy gets into, we human beings tend to live in constant low-level fight or flight functioning. In other words, we live with constant low-level stress, and we're just not built to work that way. The way we evolved functioning was at a level of very, very low stress, and then occasionally we dealt with high stress, and once the stress was gone, we went back, if we survived that is, we went back to low-level stress. That's not how we live. But our body still is adapted to live the way we used to in a world we've not adapted for. So in the modern world, with the increased amount of pressure, the high amounts of stimuli that are out there that we take in, whether it be from our phones and from television and all over the place, with the constant go, 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 we live in constant low-level fight or flight functioning. And so that has a very, very dramatic effect on our bodies via our hypothalamus. So our hypothalamus runs in overdrive. So when you're in fight or flight, your hypothalamus will function more, will accelerate its function. So we live in overdrive, and the impact of that long term, it's almost like you're running a permanent internal neurological, biochemical, physiological marathon. And if I ran a marathon permanently on the outside, or if we all did that, we'd be exhausted and fatigued and in pain. Well, that's unfortunately what happens on the inside. If you constantly run in overdrive, then it can exhaust you. And so what Mickel does is looks as to, that's the hypothalamus in overdrive is what we would call the how of how we become chronically ill, or how we underperform, or how we become chronically tired, or what have you. The why looks at the understanding between how we process information, particularly how we process stress. And we have two intelligence systems, one being our thinking or rational brain, or we might call the mind in our head, and the other one being our emotional brain centers, which is pre-thinking. So thinking happens in our head, but in our mind, what we call our thinking or rational brain, but the emotional brain is this pre-thinking, instinctive intelligence that's there to keep us happy, safe, and comfortable. And it scans our environment in the now, basically in present time, looking for any threat. And if a threat occurs, it uses emotions as a call to action, specifically primary negative emotions as a call to action from our bodies to deal with stress. Now, if we lived in the natural environment that we were built for, like a lot of animals in the wild, this would work perfectly. But us human beings have a highly, highly sophisticated rational brain, and in the process of becoming top of the animal kingdom by having this highly sophisticated rational brain, and as we evolved, it got more and more and more emphasized now, where kids are taught, be strong, push through, tough it out, Don't be so emotional. Don't cry. And we're taught that emotional discomfort or pain is a bad thing. So we're taught to ignore these messages from our emotional brain. And so this communication between emotional brain and thinking brain breaks down. And we fail to listen to our bodies. We fail to live in tune with our environment, and our hypothalamus, the messages that come from our emotional brain, then get internalized, and our hypothalamus goes into overdrive. And that, in the long run, can be the root cause to a lot of illness. So the Mickel technique has some absolutely fantastic tools for reversing this process of us internalizing this stress and this energy and allowing your body to return to natural health or its optimal health. It's quite a surprising technique. We look at the behavioral patterns that you've picked up since you were very, very young that are often subconscious, and we look at reversing those. Some of those patterns can be what we call self-serving, but a lot of them are self-limiting and lead us to driving our bodies too hard, or to suppressing emotions, or to just taking ourselves way out of balance. And we look at finding what are the specific patterns that are leading you out of balance or leading your hypothalamus into overdrive, and then we work at reversing them. It is not a thinking-based technique, it is an action-based technique. So without action, you can't reverse patterns. And when you start learning to take the correct action to reverse these behavioral patterns that run you down, then you can see a dramatic shift in chronic illnesses. I've seen many recoveries from chronic illness, and you'll see a dramatic effect on your optimal health and performance. It really changes how you live. So it's one of those ones that is a paradigm shift. It takes a while for people to adjust. Initially it made a lot of sense to me, but I didn't believe it'd work until I started using it on clients. And then I started to see just fantastic results. So there's a couple of videos on my website, www.timaltman.com.au, about Mickel Therapy by Dr. Mickel himself. I can send you a book on Mickel Therapy, but it's certainly one, and I'd be happy to discuss it further, but it's certainly one to have a look at.